viewers, welcome to Breaking the Law, where we help you understand the law. We promise to dissect the law, analyze it, and give it back to you in bite-sized pieces to enable you understand the law that governs your society better. I am your host, Estella Ategeka Felicity. Breaking the Law. I'm sure you have very many questions about why this show is called Breaking the Law. Well, we're not going to teach you how to do prison breaks or how to get yourselves in trouble with the police. What we are going to do is to dissect and analyze the law and break it down into bite-sized pieces for you so that we are all on the same page in regard to the law. Our vision is a society that is knowledgeable about the law governing it. And our mission is to promote knowledge of the law and curtail its ignorance in order to advance human rights, peace, order, and development in society. Thank you very much for joining us, and we shall go straight into our first topic. Our topic today is the Constitution and constitutionalism. I am not alone in studio, and at this juncture, I will allow my guest to introduce himself.
Hello viewers out there. My name is Michael Wynne with Kaganzi and Company Advocates, and I look forward to our journey together.
Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
It's
Yes,
nice to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Before we go too far,
Yeah.
I think we all realize the fact that the law is so intertwined with our lives.
Yeah.
From the point of birth to the point of death. I mean, when you are born, you are required to get a birth certificate. You go through life, at the workplace, you get to a point where you have to go to work, and there is a law that is saying something about how that relationship with your employer or your employee should be governed. You get to the point where when you go back home, there'll still be a law that has something to say about how you should relate or acquire that home.
Yeah.
And even when you die, there'll be a requirement to get a birth certificate, and there'll be all these laws talking about how the property you leave behind should be treated. What gives it this ability to be omnipresent?
Well, all this one, the beginning and end of it is actually the Constitution, because it is something that has been happening over a long period of time. And the final bit of it is, as I said before, the Constitution. As human beings and as a society, what we want more than anything is order.
Okay.
The same way you wake up in the morning and you expect the sun to be there is the same way you want when you talk to someone, you know what is going to happen. When you're using the road, you know that there are rules supposed to be followed. When you're arrested by the police, hopefully not, but in case it happens, there are certain things that are supposed to occur. You are supposed to be charged with a crime. You shouldn't just be arrested anyhow.
That's true.
Now, in order to create this sense of order, we, as human beings, if we were to go back in time just a little.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to the days when there was no order. It was just people moving around. If you found someone moving deep in the forest somewhere, you killed that person in order to get food. Or law of the jungle.
What
Let's
time?
call it. Yeah.
What era was that?
A long time ago, cave era, during the early development of man.
Okay.
After a certain period, groups of people started coming together. But then they needed to create rules about how they were to operate as a group.
Okay.
Those rules eventually became customs, because you needed certain customs in certain areas to arrange the rules under. For example, if you are getting married, there was the custom of getting married.
Okay.
And then under that custom, there were rules. Then eventually, if if you are becoming an adult, there were certain customs. When you died, there were certain customs after that one.
Okay.
Now,
So this is not something new.
it's not something new. It's something that is basically in our DNA. So after a while, you have customs coming together to make laws. Now, in our societies, we were still at the level. We were still at the level of customs by the time the British came in. Now, they eventually came in with their laws that overrode our customs. Our customs had to be in line with their laws. But then you see, their constitution, how their constitution came about was their customs were turned into laws, written laws that you could follow, you could interpret. Then when the laws became too many, they now needed something to organize the law under. And that is how the constitution, how the idea of constitutionalism came about.
Okay. We've been talking about you've mentioned the Constitution a lot.
Yes.
What exactly is the Constitution? And they asked you, what is a Constitution? What would you tell them?
I'd tell them that the Constitution is two things. The first one is the Constitution is a book. This book here, this is the Constitution. The second thing I'll tell them is what it, or what the Constitution is, what it wants us to do. Well, at least generally speaking. Well, this Constitution is not just a book that you see here. It's also the supreme law of the land.
Okay.
Thank you. Everything that we do, all our laws, all our policies, rules, regulations, come from that book, that Constitution.
Okay.
In fact, it goes so far as to say that the Constitution is an agreement between us and the government. It tells the government what it is allowed to do. It tells us what we are allowed to do and how we can coexist together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did this agreement come about? I don't remember signing this agreement.
Well, you didn't sign it per se, but the moment you were born, your parents became your guarantors.
Okay.
They guaranteed that you'd follow the Constitution. Now, how it came about? Well, if we were to look at how this particular Constitution came about,
Yes.
we'd have to again go back in time. We're going to be doing a lot of time traveling. Okay.
Which is allowed.
Yes, we go back to 1962, October 9th, when the British finally left.
Okay.
When they lowered their flag and they put up the flag of Uganda. Now, the 1962 Constitution, which became our independence constitution, started applying then.
Okay.
It was created by the Legico, that was the parliament of that time. And then it was meant to start functioning after the end of colonialism, which it did.
Yes.
Yeah, so it worked for a few years until 1966, when what we call the Kabaka crisis occurred.
Okay.
When there was an issue of leadership, because at that time we had Kabaka Mutesa II, who was the president of Uganda, and then we had Milton Obote, who was the prime minister. Now, when there were elections, the two parties decided to work together. That was UPC and Kabaka Yeka, KY, in order to form a government. It was agreed that
that's the government that ushered us into independence.
Yes, that's correct. It was agreed that Kabaka Mutesa II would be the president of Uganda and Milton Obote would be the prime minister.
Okay.
But then fast forward 4 years later, that is 1966, there was a bit of issue about who had more power. at least generally speaking,
Okay, between the president
and the Prime Minister. Yes. Now, that caused the Prime Minister to overthrow the president, and then a new constitution was created. I think they call that one the Pigeonhole Constitution.
Why do they call it the Pigeonhole Constitution?
Well, because unlike the way constitutions are supposed to be created, which is through consulting the people, and then a report is created, and then a constitution is then developed through the will of all the people. That constitution was created overnight, and then parliamentarians found it in their pigeonholes in parliament. That is those small boxes. If you know those old buildings, those small boxes where they used to put the letters.
They sort of look like the post office. When you go to the post office, those boxes where you find your mail.
Yes, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
these ones are open.
Okay.
Yeah. So now the copies of the constitution were put in those pigeonholes for members of parliament to find, and it was determined that that was now the rule of the land. So now this is, it wasn't a very constitutional thing to do, but it was taken as the constitution. Now this is the constitution that we had until 1971, when the government of Idi Amin threw out President Milton Obote.
Okay.
Yeah, now after President Milton Obote was thrown out, Amin ruled through decrees. That is, he would wake up one day, make a decree.
So what happened to what exactly happened to the 1967 constitution at that point?
Well, it was completely thrown out. It became inoperable.
All right.
Yeah.
We shall pick it from there after this break.